Hi, this is the help video for Access Chapter 7, Prepare Case A. We are on step number 20. We're going to do 20 through 24 because they all work together. So we're going to do that same process where we want to figure out a percentage from a total. In this case, we want to do the percentage of scheduled services that each spa services has contributed to the overall number of services, right? So we have to come up with two different queries, one that gives us like a grand total of all the services, a count of all of the services that have been performed. Then we're going to create a second query that's going to get the count of services by type. And then we'll use those two underlying queries to come up with a third query that tells us the percent of the services used. So let's start off with the very basic one, which is to calculate the total. So we're going to do create query design, and we want the schedule table. So we got to go back to tables, schedule, and then all I need here is a field that I can count, right? So schedule ID. That's it. So if I run it, I just get the schedule ID of every service that was scheduled. We're going to rename that. So I'm going to zoom on it, and we're going to call this services volume. And remember, this is important to rename it to something meaningful when you know it's a subquery, because that's what you're going to be using when you move forward. So then I have to put on the, so we're done with 20. We have to put on the total row and change this from a group by to a count, because all I want is a count of how many individual services were run. So if I do that, it's 29. So if I look at the service table, right, I should be able to see that value. Oops, what did I just do? I have to recreate. Sorry, I got out of that without saving it. So I recreated it, and we should get a single number. There it is. So now I'm going to save this as QRY total services. Okay. So now I know how many records there were, how many services were in the schedule. So we're going to save that. So we did this. Now we're on 22. So we're going to build the second underlying query. It's going to go the same way. We're going to use service and schedule and service. Let's do it this way. Schedule and service. Because I need this field, right? This type field, and let's see, hold on one sec. So I needed to add in the, up here I just used schedule, right? Because it had this schedule ID, which is fine. I'm going to use that again, but now I need to know what service, right? So if we look at the service table, service type, right? I want to get a total count by this service type. So make sure I close out of the right one. So we're going to add type and schedule ID. We're going to rename type. We're going to rename type to schedule. Rename the schedule. Wait a minute. Rename the schedule ID field, sorry. Wrong field, zoom. Schedule ID field as services vol by type, colon. We're renaming that. So if I run it and I look at this, services by volume type. Okay. Run the query. So we're up here. Turn the total row on. Okay, this is where we have to do. We're grouping by type and we're counting by this. So then we're going to save this QRY services volume by type. So now we have a total. So I have this query saved. I'm going to go ahead and close it. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And we're done with this. And we're done with this. So now all we need to do is create the query that uses both of those underlying, right? Calculate the percentage for each has contributed to the overall. We're going to use the query total services and the services volume, and we're going to do a new calculated field here, divides service volume type by service field, same thing we did before, formatted as percentage. So let's go ahead. So the big takeaway here is we built these two underlying queries, one to get the total or the total count, and then the other to get a count by the type of service, right? So we need to go grab those queries. So query total services, and query services volume by type. And there's my fields. And close that up. So now all we want to do is add the following fields. Type, right? So that's just each of those service types. And then calculate. So we go to the next blank, and we're going to calculate. The field's going to be called PCT of services volume, colon. And then we're going to divide service volume by type, services volume by type, divided by services vol, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. I need to go to my property sheet, format, and make it a percentage. And then I'm going to run it and see what we get. So what we get is for each service type, we get what percentage of the schedule was for each of those. Okay. So if you look, body massages were the number one service rendered in this. So we're going to go ahead and make this so we can see everything. We're going to save this as QRY percent PCT of services volume, right? So the key, get the total, get a total by grouping, bring those together to get the percentage. Okay, so we're done with 24. Let me just verify that we did everything. Adjusted, formatted, yep. So we're done with this one. We're going to pick up on the next one, which would be the last movie for this part A. All right, thank you.